Howdy everyone, my imaginary friend, Dead Bunny, is going to bring this windy story to you today.
Howdy everyone. I have a question. Do you have an answer? How did 5 hurricanes change history? And how will climate change affect our lives? Hurricanes are not unusual on our planet. And if you want to know more about how 5 hurricanes, in particular, changed the course of history, follow me on this journey through time, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more strange new stories told by an alien and her imaginary friend, a pair that otherwise can't be found anywhere. Each year, an average of 2 hurricanes strike the United States. And unfortunately, these powerful storms have caused billions of dollars of property damage and killed nearly 30,000 people since the late 1800s. What happens when the hurricanes add to a pandemic? How much can climate change affect the frequency and power of these tropical cyclones? There are conflicting views and opinions on how climate change can affect the formation of cyclones. According to Scientific American, the total number of hurricanes isn't necessarily a symbol of the changing climate, but it could also be because we don't have reliable hurricane records. The best data starts with the satellite record in the 1970s. That means scientists don't actually have a ton of long-term data on what constitutes a typical hurricane season. But if we take a look to the temperature of the water in the Atlantic Ocean in 2020, we can notice that sea surfaces have been unusually warm throughout much of the Atlantic Basin this summer. The warm Atlantic waters have likely been influenced by a number of factors. Natural climate cycles, which swing between warmer and cooler phases every decade or so, have probably played a role, and climate change certainly is contributing to ocean warming. But there's another less obvious factor that may be affecting the frequency of Atlantic storms in recent years. As pollution levels in the United States and Europe have fallen, the climate over the Atlantic has warmed a bit faster than it otherwise would have. That's because certain types of air pollution actually have a cooling effect on the atmosphere. But if we want to try to predict the future, we can say that climate models suggest that the way the atmosphere changes over the Atlantic in the coming decades is actually less conducive to hurricane formation. But warm water doesn't just affect the likelihood that a storm will form in the first place. It also influences how intense the storm will get. Warmer water tends to favor stronger storms. Accordingly, climate models project that hurricanes will be more intense in the future. What do you think would be better or worse? Well, the future is uncertain. Instead, what is certain is that the course of history was changed by hurricanes. Back in 1565, a fleet of French ships was destroyed in a hurricane, effectively ending France's hopes of colonizing Florida. But also another hurricane some years after played a decisive role that radically changed the history of the nascent Jamestown colony. It was June 1609, a supply mission of 9 ships and approximately 500 colonists set sail from England to replenish the Jamestown colony. According to history, before the convoy could reach England's first permanent settlement in North America, however, a massive hurricane blew the 300-ton Sea Venture, which headed the flotilla, far off course to Bermuda, where the ship ran aground. The castaways survived for nearly a year while they constructed 2 smaller ships. When they finally arrived in Jamestown, they discovered a colony on the brink of collapse. Without the supplies aboard the Sea Venture, Jamestown's population had dwindled from 500 to 5 dozen. Some colonists had even reportedly turned to cannibalism to ward off starvation. In addition, that storm and the dramatic situation of Jamestown colony inspired an aspiring poet and playwright who had been aboard the Sea Venture. It was that which gave birth to The Most Dreadful Tempest, written by William Strachey. Around the same time that Strachey's account circulated in England in 1610, playwright William Shakespeare penned a play about a violent storm that caused a shipwreck on a remote island, The Tempest. Was it a case of plagiarism? Of course, we cannot talk about hurricanes without mentioning pirates.
Yar.
In July 1715, a dozen ships laden with jewels, gold, and silver, harvested from Spain's colonies in Central and South America, sailed along Florida's east coast and into the teeth of a vicious hurricane. The storm decimated the Spanish treasure fleet near present-day Vero Beach. All but one ship ran ashore or disintegrated against the reefs, strewing wreckage over a 30-mile stretch of shallow waters. Like prospectors drawn to a gold rush, thousands of mariners descended upon the scene of destruction with hopes of recovering a piece of the booty. Do you know a hurricane put Alexander Hamilton on the path to become a founding father? in the wake of an August 1772 hurricane that barreled through the Caribbean island of St. Croix. A teenager wrote a vivid account of the storm to his father, who had abandoned his family more than 6 years earlier. That letter changed the life of its author, Alexander Hamilton, who demonstrated his literary power with his prose. The letter so impressed Hugh Knox, Hamilton's Presbyterian minister, that he printed the account in a newspaper he edited, and it spread far and wide. But the most important hurricane was the one that helped ensure victory in the American Revolution, as it swept across Caribbean ports used by the French and British navies as staging areas during the American Revolution. The Great Hurricane of 1780 took an estimated 22,000 lives, while the British lost 8 ships and nearly all of their crews, and it was the deadliest Atlantic hurricane on record. It also claimed more than 40 French transport vessels and the lives of thousands of soldiers on board. The storm provided an added impetus for France, which had signed a treaty in 1778 to provide military support to the Patriots, to agree to George Washington's request to move its ships northward. Repairing their ships during the winter of 1781, the French then moved most of their vessels north to the Virginia coast during the following hurricane season. After defeating the British naval forces at the Battle of Chesapeake on September 5, 1781, French warships blocked any British escape by sea during the Siege of Yorktown. That operation concluded with the surrender of Lord Charles Cornwallis and effectively ended the American Revolution. What do you think? Can you remember other hurricanes that changed the course of history? Or is there a hurricane in your life that changed everything around you or someone you know? Leave a comment now. Your opinion matters. Also, if you'd like to support us on Patreon, you can find a link in the description as well as our store.
And don't forget to like, subscribe and share. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't, press thumbs down twice, just to be sure. Take it easy. Peace. Oh, by the way, I'm an alien. But not that kind of alien.